Does anyone remember Teddy Ruxpin? Good day, followers. Today we will be talking about a favorite toy of mine as a child, Teddy Ruxpin. Teddy Ruxpin was an animatronic talking toy teddy bear that would essentially read a book to you. Being a kid that was spoon-fed animatronics in the form of Disney attractions and restaurants such as Showbiz Pizza, it was really neat having a miniaturized version in your own home. The toy was really innovative and groundbreaking for the time. In fact, Teddy Ruxpin was the best-selling toy of 1985 and 1986. It made $93 million in its first year, spawned an animated TV series, and countless imitators. Before we can talk about Teddy, let's talk about the making and the history of this incredible bear. The father of Teddy Ruxpin is this man, Ken Forsey. Forsey had started his career as an animator for Disney and then later as a model builder and engineer where he worked on many of the Disney theme park's early rides and characters. Also of note, he worked on Sid and Marty Krofft shows, so he had a fitting experience for this. Teddy's origins date back to 1958, while after working on a couple of failed children's show pilots, Ken Forsey decided he could create a show of his own involving puppets that became the genesis of the idea. At the time, the character was called Simeon Greep, because during that era, the United States were sending monkeys into space. Ken and his friend working on the idea were hoping to capitalize on that. Ken was subsequently drafted a year later for the Army from 1959 to 1962, so that kind of took the steam out of the project. He continued to work infrequently on the project here and there. He even went so far as to almost start a fire in his home kitchen, making a prototype for the tweed character head. Fast forward to the early 1980s. By this time, Ken had developed so many properties that he felt the technology had sort of caught up to his idea, and he had written tons of material, so the timing was just right. Ken started Alchemy 2 in his garage with his associates he had worked with. He pitched the idea to Disney. They were so impressed that they gave him a contract to do the costumes on Welcome to Blue Corner. It was this technology that would be the basis for Teddy Ruxpin, and he saw the potential as a toy as well as being a show. He pitched the show to even more companies, but many of them passed because they didn't quite get the idea of his. He originally used an FM radio for the voice and animatronic syncing, but later switched to cassettes that were easier and more efficient. Eventually, the show idea got picked up by ABC, who appreciated the concept, and when Worlds of Wonder executive Don Kingsborough got one put in his lap, he fell in love with it and put it on the shelves within 6 months. Ken then waited with bated breath to see if his idea would take off. His two specials he co-financed with ABC were meant to be kind of a prolonged advertisement for the toy. However, the toy would not need the help of the show because when it was released in September 1985, it sold a staggering 41,000 units in 30 days at $79 a pop, with the cassette and books being sold for an additional $12.95 each. By 1987, it had sold 1.4 million bears, which was a lot for the time. Cha-ching! The success didn't last, however, after Worlds of Wonder made some pretty bad business decisions and had to file bankruptcy in 1988. Since then, it had moved to Playschool, which used a smaller prototype robot and basically used 8-track tapes in place of cassettes. After that, it moved to several other companies before it came back in 2017 with the Wicked Cool toy line. This one had animated eyes, and most of the stories you can get via the app now. Teddy Ruxpin is just one of many cultural milestones in what made the 80s classic, what made the 80s legendary. We haven't seen a decade this great since, culturally speaking. Alright guys, that's all I have to say for now. Please subscribe and give me better ideas.